Hello friends, though GST is one nation, one tax, but there are many acts to implement GST in our country. So first we will discuss about the acts applicable for intrastate supply. Now intrastate supply is supplies within the state. So what are the acts which are applicable to levy GST on intrastate supply? First is CGST Act. As you know, in the previous sessions we have told ours is a dual GST model where each transaction, each supply, the levy of CGST as well as SGST is done. So CGST is levied as per the CGST Act 2017. So CGST Act is Central Goods and Service Tax Act. It is one act which is applicable throughout the country. So CGST Act levies CGST on the intrastate supply. There is one more act, UTGST Act, that is Union Territory GST Act. So whichever union territories are there, this UTGST Act will be applicable. So one UTGST Act is applicable for all the union territories. So suppose if there is one intrastate supply, there will be CGST applicable and there will be UTGST applicable. So both will be levied under the respective act. One more act is SGST Act. So if you have a CGST applied, there is an SGST portion for the state applied separately. So each state will have its own SGST. So like a CGST Act is one, UTGST Act is one for the whole country. SGST Act for states is separate for each state. And for union territory having a legislative assembly, SGST Act again is applied for all those union territories where there is a legislative assembly. So we have for interstate supply dual tax. One is CGST if it is a union territory, UTGST if it is a state, SGST will be applicable. This is with regards to intrastate supply within the state. Now if it is a interstate supply, that is supply between two states or one state, one union territory, or between union territories, IGST Act, that is Integrated Goods and Service Tax Act, is applicable. So IGST Act, one levy, there will not be a separate CGST and SGST or UTGST applied. There will be one IGST levy which will be applied, and in the back end the tax will be separated and the state portion will go to the state and CGST portion will go to the center. So that is IGST Act 2017 and GST Compensation to the States Act. So when GST came into was introduced, every state had an apprehension about the loss of revenue because of the implementation of the GST. So the government promised all the states that they will be getting minimum whatever tax collection they used to do in their previous regime when the GST is implemented. So they brought in something called GST Compensation to the States Act, which was initially thought for the 5 years, but then they have extended. But now recently in the GST Council meeting they have told it will not be further extended. So GST Compensation to State Act is basically to compensate the state for the loss which they may incur because of the implementation of GST. So what are the rules? I'll quickly run through the rules. So whenever there is an act, there will be a rules which will be prepared to operationalize or to implement the procedures for the implementation of the act. So the rules are CGST rules to implement the CGST Act, Integrated Goods and Service Tax rules for implementing IGST Act, Goods and Service Tax Compensation Cess rules, which is for payment of compensation to the states, then UTGST rules, GST settlement of funds. So between the states, the settlement of funds, how it happens. So there is a separate rule for that. Then Appellate Tribunal, GST Appellate Tribunal for the creation of Appellate Tribunals for dispute. and National Anti-Profiteering Authority. So this was basically introduced because of implementation of GST. Whenever any SSE or the taxpayer industry is making profit because of the implementation of GST, that profit has to be transferred and the benefit has to be given to the end consumer. So there was something called National Anti-Profiteering Authority which was created. Hope you like this video. Thank you so much.